Hello, my dear students. Hope you guys are all doing good. Hope you guys are all perfectly fine. So, in this session, we will try to understand the standard SA 580. And what does SA 580 deal about? The standard SA 580 will be talking about written representations. So, we are going to understand in this particular standard what is the meaning of written representation, how it can be used as audit evidence, from whom we will request written representations, regarding which matters we will try to obtain written representations. So, all the technicalities relating to written representations we are going to understand in this particular section. So, now before I can start explaining any of the technicalities relating to this written representation, it becomes very much necessary for us to understand what exactly is the meaning of this written representation. What we should know? So we should first try to understand what exactly is the meaning of written representation. Let us try to understand what exactly is the meaning of written representations. So to understand the meaning, see, this is somewhat similar to when I say written representation, it is one of the technique or method for obtaining audit evidence. Like the way we have seen various techniques for obtaining audit evidence, written representation is also one of the kind of audit evidence. And this term written representation is somewhat like external confirmation. Written representation is somewhat like external confirmation. See, we discussed about what is external confirmation in SA 505. So, as I have explained you in SA 505, what exactly is the meaning of external confirmation? Can somebody let me know what did I explain you about the meaning of external confirmation as per SA 505? So, I told you that external confirmation means a written representation a written confirmation obtained by the auditor from a third party, a direct written response obtained by the auditor from a third party. When I say third party, from a party outside of the client's organization, like debtor, creditor, banker. So, if the auditor is trying to get the audit evidence by way of direct written response from a third party, from a person who is outside of the entity, so that we call it as external confirmation, which is one of the important technique for performing, which is one of the important technique for obtaining audit evidence. So this external confirmation we know, written response obtained by the auditor from a third party, we are going to call it as external confirmation. Then what is written representation is? A written representation is also a written confirmation or written response obtained by the auditor, but not from the third party, but from within the organization, from the people within the organization, like from management or those charged with governance. If the auditor is trying to obtain audit evidence by way of obtaining written confirmation, not from the outsider, from the management or those charged with governance, that is from the people within the organization, that we call it as written representation. So if you are getting a written response from a third party, from someone who is outside of the client's organization, that we call it as external confirmation. But however, if the auditor is trying to get the written confirmation from the management or those charged with governance, that is from the people within the organization, if you are trying to get the written confirmation, that we are going to call it as a written representation. So that is what mainly the difference between external confirmation and written representation. Very simple, guys. External confirmation response you obtain from third party, written representation the response which you are getting from the people within the organization, like management or those charged with governance. Sir, what exactly is this? Sir, for which matters we will try to obtain written representation? See, in order to make you understand, let me use one example from one of the standards which we have already completed. Like, if you remember, I have explained you about SA 501. We discussed SA 501, no? See, SA 501 is talking about how to obtain audit evidence regarding three specific cases. Number one, how to obtain audit evidence regarding existence and condition of inventory. How to obtain audit evidence regarding litigations and claims. How to obtain audit evidence regarding segment reporting. There, if you remember, I told when I was explaining about litigations and claims, I told one of the step which auditor needs to do to obtain audit evidence regarding litigations and claims is he need to obtain written representation from the management that all those litigations and claims which are required to be disclosed in the financial statements have been disclosed and informed to the auditor. Do you remember this point? So don't worry, I will take you through that. If you remember SA 501, this standard we are already done with. So from that standard, yeah, here we have. So see here. So this is what I was referring to. So if you have, we have already understood this standard. So there I have told this point. The auditor shall request management and where appropriate, those charged with governance to provide a written representation that all known or actual possible litigations have been disclosed to the auditor and appropriately accounted for and have been disclosed in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. That means SA 501 is asking you to obtain a written confirmation from the management that whether all those litigations and claims which need disclosure in the financial statements have been informed to the auditor and have been appropriately disclosed as per applicable financial reporting framework. So here the standard SA 501 is asking you to get the written confirmation from the management. So like this, in various standards regarding various matters, you are required to obtain a confirmation from the management to support the items of the financial statements. So that written representations, that written confirmations, whatever you are trying to get it from the management or those charged with governance regarding the items of the financial statements, that we are going to call it as a written representation. So that is what the meaning of the written representation. Now, sir, what is the relevance of this written representation? Written representation are a kind of audit evidence. Written representation are a kind of audit evidence, but written representations are only supporting audit evidence. You can't use only written representation as an audit evidence. Written representation is only a supporting audit evidence. Written representations is not a evidence on its own. See, what is this? What is the meaning of this sentence? When I say written representation is just a supporting evidence, what written representation is not a evidence on its own, that means what I am trying to tell you there. Very simple. See, assume that when I say written representation is an audit evidence, take for example, I went to the management and told, I am conducting audit of the company X Limited. I went to the management and told, sir, please give me a written confirmation. Please give me a written representation that you have prepared the items, you have prepared the financial statements and books of accounts without any misstatement. I went to the management of the company. So I am an auditor. I went to the management of the company and told, sir, you please give me written representation that you have prepared financial statements and books of accounts which are free from material misstatements. Please give me one written representation. Management gave me one written confirmation. Can I use only that written confirmation and express my opinion? No. See, if that is the case, what will happen? My audit will become very simple. In 2 minutes, I will complete audit of any entity. The standard says SA 580 is an evidence, but it is only a supporting evidence. You should not use only written representation as an evidence. If the standard would have told you can use written representation only as audit evidence, then what would have become is my audit would have become very simple. Why my audit would have become very simple? If the standard told you can use written representation only as audit evidence, I can complete the audit within 2 minutes. How? So I will go to the management of my client company and ask them, sir, you please give me one written confirmation. I will ask two confirmations actually. I will ask the management to give a written confirmation that they have prepared the financial statements as per applicable financial reporting framework. I will ask the management a written confirmation. They have prepared the financial statements free from material misstatements. Just take two confirmations from the management. That's all. You can express the opinion. Is that the case? No. So that is why the standard is telling you can use written representation only as supporting evidence. You can't use written representation as only audit evidence for expressing the opinion. Why you can't use written representation only as audit evidence is, see, like inquiry. If you remember, one of the technique for obtaining audit evidence is inquiry. I told you the evidence obtained by way of inquiry is the least persuasive audit evidence, is the least convincing audit evidence. Why? Why? Because when you conduct inquiry, you can't expect the management or employees to come and disclose their own mistakes. Similarly, when I say written representation, it is a confirmation from the management. See, no management will come and expressly tell you that they have committed some mistakes. So that's why, to the extent possible, use written representation only as supporting audit evidence. It is important information, agreed. If you are getting confirmation from the management regarding certain items of the financial statements, it is one of the important information. I don't deny it. But use written representation only as supporting evidence. Don't use written representation as only audit evidence. The meaning of not using only as audit evidence is you should not rely only on written representation and express the opinion. No, don't do it. So try to use written representation along with other evidences. Use it only as a supporting evidence. Don't use as a sole audit evidence for expression of opinion. So I told you what is the meaning of written representation. I told you how written representation can be used as audit evidence. Now, sir, regarding which matters auditor will obtain confirmation from the management, from which category of the management auditor will try to obtain written representation. Sir, what will happen if the management is not giving you the written representation? Sir, what will happen if the management has given the written representation but they are not reliable? What should auditor do in all these cases? That we will read the standard and understand it. Guys, got the structure? What exactly the standard is going to cover? Did you understand it? So if you understand it, there is this standard is actually very easy standard, very simple standard, very small standard. No much concept is involved here. So just we have to read the standard, understand each and every paragraph and complete it. So let us go into the standard now. Let us try to understand what exactly they are going to say here. So first of all, what does SA 580 deal about written representation? So yes, so let me read it here. Definition. What is the meaning of written representation? Guys, very simple standard. So there is nothing much concept left here. We will take each and every paragraph of the standard, read it, understand it and complete it. So first of all, what is the meaning of written representation? How it has been defined? Let us see. Written representation may be defined as a written statement by whom? By the management, provided to the auditor to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidences. So when I say management, that includes those charged with governance also. So what is the meaning of written representation? They are saying it is a written statement. It is a what? Written statement. Provided by whom? Management. When I say management, management including those charged with governance also. To whom this written statement is provided? To the auditor. A written statement is provided by the management. That we are going to call it as a written representation to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidences. So to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidences, whatever written statement which auditor has obtained from the management of the company, that we are going to call it as a written representation. And written representation in this context do not include financial statements, the assertions therein, or supporting books and records. See, when I say written representation is a written statement provided by the management to the auditor, you might have thought, sir, as an auditor, what we are supposed to do? As an auditor, our objective is to verify financial information. When I say financial information, what will be included? Financial statements and books of accounts. Who will give financial statements to the auditor? Management. Who will give books of accounts to the auditor? Management. See, financial statements or books of accounts, these are also given to the auditor by the management. Then, can we call this financial statements and books of accounts also as written representation? No. Books of accounts and financial statements, they will not be called as written representation. Regarding the items of the financial statements, regarding the items of the books of accounts, whatever written confirmations provided by the management, that we call it as written representation. See, they might ask you as a true or false statement. So they might ask you a question in the examination. Written representation include financial statements and books of accounts. Do you agree with that? No, we don't agree with that. Written representation does not include financial statements and books of accounts given by the management to the auditor. But regarding the items of financial statements, regarding the items of the books of accounts, if the management is giving extra confirmations, that we call it as written representations. Written representation does not include the financial statements and books of accounts. Clear, everybody? So that is what the meaning of written representation. So tell me, if they ask you to write the definition of written representations, what you will write? Written representation is a written statement provided by the management to the auditor to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidences. However, written representation in this context does not include financial statements and books of accounts. Then, how written representation can be used as audit evidence? Let us see. Written representations are necessary information that the auditor requires in connection with the audit of entities' financial statements. The written representation is one of the important information while conducting audit of financial statements. Accordingly, similar to responses to inquiries, written representation are audit evidence, and written representations are requested from those responsible for the preparation and presentation of financial statements. Generally, we request written representation from those people, from those management who are responsible for preparation and presentation of financial statements. Like we do inquiries and get the responses. See, inquiry is a kind of audit technique to obtain audit evidence. Like inquiries are audit evidence, even written representations are also a audit evidence. Here comes the most important point, third point. Although written representation provide necessary audit evidence, they do not provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence on their own about any of the matters with which they deal. So what they are saying, written representation provide you audit evidence, but they provide only supporting audit evidence. They do not provide sufficient and appropriate audit evidence on their own, which means the auditor can't rely only on written representations to express an opinion. Why the auditor can't only rely on written representation to express the opinion? Why? Because when I say written representation, that is a confirmation given by the management or those charged with governance. You can't expect you can't expect that management will tell all their defects to you, all the mistakes whatever they have committed. They can't tell you sometimes. So that's why use written representation only as supporting audit evidence. Don't use written representation as only audit evidence. Don't rely only on written representation and express the opinion. So just to use the written representation as a supporting evidence. You can write it here, only as supporting evidence. That is what this sentence meant. Only as supporting evidence. Clear, everybody? So we understood what is the meaning of written representation, how written representation can be used as audit evidence. Now we have to address the most important thing. Sir, regarding which matters I have to obtain written representation. Regarding which matters I have to obtain written representation, let us try to understand it. So SA 580 says every auditor should compulsorily obtain written representation regarding two matters. Every auditor should compulsorily obtain written representation regarding two matters. So what are that two compulsory matters regarding which auditor need to obtain written representations? Number one, SA 580 says every auditor must obtain written confirmation or written representation from the management that management has accepted their responsibilities and they have fulfilled their responsibilities for preparation of financial statements as per applicable financial reporting framework. Every auditor must get compulsory. Any entity you are doing audit as an auditor as per SA 580, one compulsory written representation which you have to get from the management is that they acknowledge, that they accept and fulfill their responsibility for the preparation of financial statements, that too as per applicable financial reporting framework. We have to get that confirmation for compulsory. Similarly, every auditor must get a written representation from the management that they have completely provided information to the auditor. They did not hide anything to the auditor. So completeness of information provided to the auditor. So what does this mean is, for example, if I'm conducting audit of some company, from that management of the company, compulsorily I should ask the management to give two confirmations. What two confirmations? I should ask the management to give me a written statement that they have accepted and they have fulfilled their responsibility for preparation of financial statements as per applicable financial reporting framework. As we all know, who is responsible for preparation of financial statements? Management. How they have to prepare the financial statements? As per applicable financial reporting framework. Ask the management to give a written statement to fulfill that they have fulfilled their responsibility. Ask the management to give a written statement. So what the management will do is they will take the letterhead of the company and they will give a written statement. Dear auditor, we have acknowledged and we have fulfilled our responsibility to preparation of financial statements, that too in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. This confirmation auditor must get. Similarly, you ask the management to give the confirmation that they have completely disclosed the information to the auditor. All the relevant information relating to financial statements has been disclosed to the auditor completely. Nothing has been hidden from the auditor. No material information has been hidden from the auditor. Regarding this also, auditor should ask the management to give a written confirmation. So regarding this also, what management will do is they will take a letterhead of the company, type it there. Dear auditor, we have completely provided the information to you. We did not hide any information from you. So that they will print it, sign it, affix the seal of the company, and they will give it to you. So like this, every auditor from every management of the entity, for whatever entity you are doing the audit, from the management of the entity, regarding these two matters, you have to compulsorily get the written representation. What are they? That the management accepted and fulfilled its responsibility that for preparation of financial statements, and also management has provided the information completely to the auditor without hiding anything from him. These two confirmations every auditor must get from every management of the client, whoever he is doing the audit. Similarly, the auditor should also get written representation regarding those matters which is required by other standards. Sometimes other standards on auditing will mention regarding which items you have to obtain written representation. If it is mentioned in some standard that regarding this particular matter you have to obtain written representation, for that matter you have to compulsorily obtain it. Like just now as I have told, SA 501 says you are required to obtain written representation from the management regarding litigations and claims. Now, since SA 501 is saying it, it becomes necessary for the auditor to obtain written representation regarding litigations and claims. Similarly, if you pay SA 570, if you pay attention to SA 570, SA 570 says auditor must obtain written representation regarding going concern, regarding management's plans for the future. Now, since SA 570 is asking you to get the written representation regarding going concern matters, you must get it. Similarly, if SA 560 is asking you to obtain written representation regarding subsequent events, you have to get the written representation regarding subsequent events. So like this, if there is requirement of any other standard on auditing to obtain written representation regarding certain matters, it is compulsory for the auditor to get that written representation. And in all other cases, and in all other matters, let the auditor himself decide using his professional judgment regarding which matter he wants written representation, regarding which matter he doesn't want written representation. So three matters compulsory. What are they? That management has accepted and fulfilled the responsibility for preparation of financial statements. Management has completely provided information to the auditor. And whenever there is any requirement of other standards on auditing, in these three cases it is mandatory. In rest of the cases, it is up to auditor's choice to decide regarding which matter he wants written representation, regarding which matter he doesn't want written representation. Clear? So these are the objectives of the auditor as per SA 580. Nothing but when I say objective, the standard is saying regarding which matters you need to obtain written representation. So let us see what they are saying here. The objectives of auditor are, that means the auditor should try to obtain written representations regarding the following matters. Which matters? To obtain written representations that management believes that it has fulfilled its responsibility. So this one, it has fulfilled its responsibility for the preparation of financial statements and also completeness of the information provided to the auditor. Must. These two confirmations are must. Which two confirmations? That management has fulfilled the responsibility for the preparation of financial statements and they have completeness of information provided to the auditor. Similarly, to support other audit evidence relevant to the financial statements or specific assertions in the financial statements by means of written representation. Nothing but when it comes to other items of the financial statements other than these two. See, when it comes to these two matters, that management accepted the responsibility and also they have completely provided information. These two matters are mandatory. Apart from that, where there apart from these two matters, if the auditor feels that auditor requires written representation in other matters, also auditor can obtain written representation. And specifically, as I have told, if there is a requirement of the standard, then it is compulsory. In other cases, professional judgment. These two compulsory. In rest of the cases, if there is a requirement of the standard, then you have to must obtain written representation. If there is no requirement of the standard, then it is up to the professional judgment of the auditor regarding which matter he will obtain written representation, regarding which matter he will not obtain written representation. Next, to respond appropriately to written representations provided by the management, or if management does not provide requested written representation. See, when you go and ask the management to give written representations, they will give you written representation. Now, once you have received the written representation, how you have to respond to it? Sometimes what will happen is you go to the management and ask them to provide written representation and they are not giving it. Then what you will do? Then also there are some responses which you have to do it appropriately. So how to respond to the written representations given by the management, and how to respond if the management does not give written representations, that is also addressed by the standard. Understood, everybody? So when I say objective of SA 580, the objective means nothing but in this paragraph they are telling regarding which matters auditor need to obtain written representation. Clear? So 3 paragraphs of SA 580 we are done. We are done with what is the meaning of written representation, how written representation can be obtained as audit evidence, and what is the objective of auditor. Next one. Let us come to the next part, very easy one. Management from whom written representations are requested. See, when I say auditor will request written representations from the management, when I say management, the term management is a very broader term. The term management is what? Very broader term. Assume that it contains entire team of board of directors. So I told auditor will obtain written representations from the management. But when I say management, the term management is very broad. See, you can't expect each and every director of the company to have knowledge of the preparation and presentation of financial statements. Obviously, no. See, everybody might not involve in the presentation and preparation of financial statements. See, if you ask written representation from that part of the management who are not involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements, you will not get confirmations. Even if you get it, those will not be reliable. So that's why specifically you need to ask written representation from that part of the management who are involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. Don't just go randomly and ask written representation from any management. Go and ask written representations from that part of the management who are actually involved in preparation and presentation of financial statements. Like for example, if there is a CFO of a company, CFO will be more involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. If there is a CFO, it will be much better if you ask written representations from the CFO directly. If there is an audit committee, see, audit committee are the people who will be more involved in preparation and presentation of financial statements. If you go and ask the written representation from the audit committee, you will have more chances of getting the representation, and that written representations will be more reliable. So that's why what the standard says is, when you want to obtain written representation, obtain it from that part of the management who are actively involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. Like if there is CEO, CFO, ask from them. If there is audit committee, ask from them. So like that, whoever are involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements, try to ask written representations from them. See, generally, this kind of management like CEO, CFO, audit committee, we expect that these people will have all the information required relating to the items of financial statements. Generally, that is what our expectation now. See, generally we do have an expectation that CFO of the company, audit committee of the company, they will have information regarding all the items of the financial statements. But sometimes what will happen is, as an auditor, you are requesting a written representation to the CFO. Now CFO says that assume I am asking written representation regarding litigations. Now CFO is saying something like this: sir, litigations and claims, I don't have complete information. There is a legal counsel who will look after that litigations and claims. Since I don't have information regarding litigations and claims, I will not give you written representation. Can the CFO escape saying this? I went to the CFO and told, sir, SA 501 is asking me to obtain written representation regarding litigation. You give me written representation regarding litigation. What the CFO is simply saying is, sir, I don't have required information regarding litigations and claims. There is some other team handling this matter. I will not give written representation since I don't have knowledge. Can the CFO escape saying it? No, never. What the standard says is, what the standards put the responsibility on the management is, if the auditor is asking some information, some written representation from the management, and if the management doesn't have the required information, what the management should do is they should go to concerned persons in the organization, get the required information, then provide written representation to the auditor. What the standard has told, the management can't simply escape saying we don't possess requisite knowledge, that why we will not give you written confirmation, that's why we will not give you written representation. The management simply can't escape saying this. So what the standard has told is, if the management doesn't have required information, go to the concerned person, get the required information, then give written representation to the auditor. Like for example, I went to the CFO and told, sir, please give me written representation regarding litigation. If the CFO doesn't have information, he should go to concerned person. Like the CFO should go to the legal counsel, get the required information from the legal counsel, then provide written representation to the auditor. He can't simply escape saying, I don't have information, I will not provide written representation. He can't simply escape by saying this. Clear, everybody? So that's what they try to say here in the next paragraph. So generally we request written representation from the management, from that part of the management who are actually involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. We expect them to completely possess knowledge regarding various items of financial statements. But in some cases what will happen is, management might not have requisite information to give the confirmation to the auditor. In that case, the management should go to concerned person in the organization, get the required information, then provide the written representations to the auditor. They can't simply escape saying, we don't have information, we will not provide written representation. The management can't say this, and the management can't escape saying this. Able to understand? So that's what they try to say here. Management from whom written representations are requested. The auditor shall request written representations from the management with appropriate responsibilities for the preparation for the financial statements and the knowledge of the matters concerned. So you generally go and ask written representation from that part of the management whom we expect to have, whom we have expected to involved in the preparation of financial statements. So that's why written representations may therefore be requested from entities CEO and CFO or other equivalent persons like audit committee, etc. Those individuals may vary depending on governance structure of the entity and relevant law or regulation. Since management is responsible for preparation of financial statements and conduct of the business, they would be expected to have sufficient knowledge of the process followed by the entity in preparing and presenting financial statements and the assertions therein on which to base the written representation. So generally we have an expectation that management will have knowledge about preparation and presentation of financial statements, so they will be able to give you written representation. This is what our expectation. But sometimes what will happen, management might not have complete information. Then what they should do, go to concerned person, get the required information, then provide written representation to the auditor. So that's what they say here. In some cases, however, management may decide to make inquiries of others participating in the preparation and presenting the financial statements and assertions therein, including individuals who have specialized knowledge relating to the matters about which written representations are requested. If the management knows all the information, they will give it directly. If the management doesn't have the required information, they go to concerned person in the organization, do the inquiries, or they might go to the person who will have that specialized knowledge, get the required information, then provide written representations to the auditor. Like for examples, sir, who will be that people with whom management can go and inquire? Who will be that people who will have specialized knowledge, who will give the information to the management so that they can provide it in representation? Some examples are given here. Such individuals may include an actuary responsible for actuarially determined accounting measurement. Take for example, management created some provision. I asked the management, sir, please give me written confirmation, written representation regarding this provision. Management told, sir, we did not calculate this provision, this was calculated by actuary. Now what management should do? Go to that actuary, get the required information, then provide written representation to the auditor. Or it could be a staff engineer who may have responsibility for and specialized knowledge about environmental liability measurements. Say I'm asking the management regarding some pollution related laws and regulations, compliance with pollution related laws and regulations. Management doesn't have information. Now what management should do? go to that staff engineer, get the information, then provide the confirmation to the auditor. Similarly, it could be internal counsel, in-house legal counsel. If the management doesn't, I'm asking confirmation regarding litigation. Management doesn't have complete information. Legal counsel has. What management will do? Go to the legal counsel, get the required information, then provide the confirmation to the auditor. So just they are giving you few examples from whom management can go and inquire with the people having specialized knowledge, get the information, then provide the written confirmations to the auditor. Clear everybody? Able to understand? So this paragraph might look lengthy, but the concept is very simple. If I have to summarize it, auditor will generally get the written representation from that part of the management who are involved in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. But sometimes they will not have it. Then what they will do? Go to concerned person or go to the people having specialized knowledge, get the information, then provide confirmation to the auditor. Who could be the, who will come under the examples of that people having specialized knowledge with whom management will inquire? It could be actuary, it could be staff engineer, it could be legal counsel. Just examples. Next, coming to the next part of the standard, we'll try to understand now point number E. Written representations from management to reconfirm its responsibilities. Now, what is this paragraph is? See, generally what will happen is, as an auditor, I told that we have to obtain representation from the management that they fulfill their responsibility for the preparation of financial statements. Assume that at the beginning of the audit, I have already obtained written representation that management will fulfill their responsibilities. But sometimes what will happen is, during the course of audit, I might be required to get a reconfirmation of the responsibilities once again. Generally, or even in the case of recurring audits also, assume that last year I have obtained written representation that the management will fulfill their responsibilities. See, in the current year also, same company, same auditor, you might not get the written representations once again. But in some cases, what will happen is, even though it is a recurring audit, or within the same year only, at the beginning you obtain written representation from the management that they will fulfill their responsibilities. Sometimes you need to get a reconfirmation once again. You have to get confirmation once again that they fulfill their responsibility. You have already obtained, but in some circumstances you need to ask it once again. When assume that at the beginning of the audit, I have obtained written representation from some board of directors, but during the course of audit, this board of directors are changed. Management has changed. So since the management has changed, it will be much better to get the written representation confirming the responsibilities of management once again from that new management. Yes or no? At the beginning, I obtained written confirmation, but those board of directors have changed. That management have changed. Now new board of director has come, new CEO has come, new CFO has come. It will be better once again if you get the written confirmation from that new management to reconfirm their responsibilities. So like this, in few circumstances, the auditor might feel it necessary to reconfirm the management to accept their responsibilities and fulfill their responsibilities by way of written representation once again. In which circumstances? Let us see. The auditor may also ask the management to reconfirm its acknowledgement and understanding of those responsibilities in written representation. Sometimes you might feel it necessary for the management to give written representation once again to reconfirm its responsibilities. When this is particularly appropriate, when those who signed the terms of audit engagement on behalf of the entity no longer have the relevant responsibilities, like responsibilities among the board of directors have changed, like CFO has become CEO, a new CEO has come. Better you get the written representation once again to reconfirm its responsibilities. Or the terms of audit engagement were prepared in a previous year. See, last year you have prepared one engagement letter, and in the current year, assume this will be a case in the, this will be matter in the case of recurring audit. See, last year you got written representation. Now in the current year, some terms of engagement are changed. Now it will be much better to get you written representation once again. No, you can't rely on last year's written representation. Since the terms of audit engagement have changed, you need to obtain written representation once again. Similarly, there is any indication that management misunderstands those responsibilities. See, management gave me written representation, but I realized that they misunderstood their responsibilities and then gave me the confirmation. Now I will go to them, explain them in a proper manner. Sir, you had a misunderstanding regarding your responsibilities. These are your actual responsibilities. Now you have understood them in a correct perspective. Give me written representation once again. or change in the circumstances make it appropriate to do so. Sometimes there might be some changes in the circumstances which might have taken place, which will be requiring the auditor to obtain the reconfirmation from the management once again. So very simple paragraph. As an auditor, sometimes you might feel it appropriate to obtain the confirmation from the management once again to reconfirm the responsibilities. When examples are when those people who have signed the terms of engagement, they no longer have that relevant responsibilities, or the terms of engagement were prepared in a previous year, or the management misunderstands the responsibilities, or changes in the circumstances. So because of these reasons, the auditor might feel it appropriate to obtain written confirmation once again from the management to reconfirm the responsibilities. Clear? Next one. Date and period covered by financial statement, written representation. One simple point I want to highlight here, but very important point for true or false statements. What should be the date and period covered by written representation? Very simple question I will ask you. See, we will have date of auditor's report now. What do you mean by date of auditor's report? The date on which auditor will sign the audit report. Then on the written representations also there will be a date of written representation. Now my question is, between date of auditor's report and between date of written representations, which one should be earlier? Which one should be earlier? Between date of auditor's report, that is the date which is mentioned in the auditor's report, and date of written representation, the date which is mentioned in the written representation. Between these two dates, which date should be earlier? Always and always, date of written representation should be earlier than the date of auditor's report. Date of written representation should never be later than the date of auditor's report. Why, guys? Why? Because written representation are also a audit evidence. Written representation are also audit evidence. What is the sequence of the audit? First we obtain audit evidence, then we give auditor's report. Yes or no? So that's why the date of written representation should always be earlier, but in any case it should never be later than date of auditor's report. Sir, what it will look like? What will happen if the date of written representation is after date of auditor's report? That means you are telling that you are a fool. You are a worst auditor. You are expressing it. Why? Because if you have a date of written representation after the date of auditor's report, what you are trying to convey is first you have given the audit report, then obtained audit evidence. That means you are expressly saying that you are a fool, no? So since written representation is an audit evidence, the date of written, and after obtaining audit evidence, then we express the opinion. So date of written representation should be as close to practicable as the date of auditor's report or earlier than the audit report. But in any case, date of written representation can never be later than the date of auditor's report. Clear, everybody? See, why they are specifically saying is some fools will be there. See, what some auditors will do is first they will do the audit. First, they will complete the entire audit. Assume that on 30th of April 2023, audit was completed. At the time of preparing the documentation, at the time of assembling the documentation, then they realize that, oh, I need to obtain written representation regarding SA 580. Now they will realize. They signed audit report on 30th of April. While assembling audit documentation, they realized that they should have got the written representation. They realized it on 31st of May. Now they will ask the management, sir, please give us written representation. We have to get it as per standard, but we forgot. Give it now. Management will give written representation. But what these useless fellows will do is they will give the current date and give the written representation. They will give the date as 31st of May and then give the written representation. So now, if clearly it is saying that you are showing yourself as a bigger fool there. You are saying you have first given the audit report, then you have obtained audit evidence, which is wrong, no? So that's why the standard has specifically mentioned the date of written representation should be earlier than the date of auditor's report. In any case, it should never be later than the date of auditor's report. Clear? So that's what they try to mention here. A very important thing for the true or false statements. The date of written representation shall be as near as practicable, but not after the date of auditor's report on the financial statements. That means the date of written representation should never be after the date of auditor's report. Why? Because written representations are necessary audit evidence. The auditor's opinion cannot be expressed and the auditor's report cannot be dated before the date of written representation. And the written representation shall be for all the financial statements and periods referred to in auditor's report. See, for whatever year's financial statements you are giving the audit report, you should obtain written representation for all that respective years. For example, if I am giving my audit report for the year 22-23, I should obtain written representations relating to the financial statements of 2022-23. So important thing here is this point, very important for true or false statements. Next one. Sir, what should be the format of written representation, sir? See, generally when I say format means nothing. How the management will give written representation is company will have a letterhead. See, letterhead means pre-printed details of the company will be there. For example, letterhead will look something like this. So this is a piece of paper. So what will happen is header will be there, footer will be there. Here pre-printed details of the company will be there, X Limited, etc., their address, etc. That will be pre-printed. Here gap will be there. This will be an empty space. Now whatever written representation management wants to give, they will print that information here. Some board of directors on behalf of the company will sign it. On that they will affix a stamp and they will give it. This is what simply the format. So that's what they say here. Format of written representation. The written representation should be in the form of a representation letter addressed to the auditor. That means in this format, what they will do is they will write it as a simply a letter to the auditor, to so and so auditor, to so and so engagement partner. We confirm that we have fulfilled all our responsibilities. We confirm that we have completely given the information. We confirm that we have disclosed all the litigations and claims. So like a letter addressing the auditor, on the letterhead of the company, the management will give written representation. And one more thing they say here, if law or regulation requires management to make written public statements about its responsibility, and the auditor determines that such statements provide some or all of the representations as required, the relevant matters covered by such statements need not be included once again in the written representation. What is this? Let me try to explain it in a simple manner with the help of example. See, assume that SA 570 is asking the auditor to get the written representations from the management regarding going concern. SA 570 is asking the auditor to obtain written representation regarding going concern. But the management, under some other law and regulation, under Companies Act issue, the management is required to give public statements to everybody regarding going concern. Just I am telling you an example. Just I am creating an example. This is not a reality. I am not telling you actual provisions of any law. Just I am giving you example. SA 570 says auditor should get written representation from the management regarding going concern. But according to some law, take Companies Act. According to Companies Act, management is anyhow required to make public statements regarding going concern. That means they will do a press release, or they will upload a announcement to the stock exchange, or they will upload a press release in their website. So as per Companies Act, management is anyhow required to give public statements regarding the going concern. See, whatever written representation you want regarding going concern from the management as per SA 570, that information is anyhow given in public statement. That is already there in the public statements. That is already there in the press release. Now, do you need to obtain separately once again written representation regarding this matter? Answer is no. That's what the paragraph is saying. If you are required to obtain some written representation from the management, but management, because of some law or regulation, they have already made a public statement regarding that information. Now you need not once again specifically ask for written representation regarding that matter. Why? Because that information anyhow has been disclosed in the public statement that is available in the public domain. The management, there is no requirement for the auditor to once again separately get the written representation. Why? Because whatever confirmation you want, that management has already given as a public statement, like a press release or some announcement. They have already made some public statement. Whatever written representation you want, if that information is already conveyed in the public statement, no need to get the written representation once again. Clear? So this is what they are trying to say here. If I read it once again, if law or regulation requires the management to make written representations if law or regulation requires management to make written public statement about its responsibility, and the auditor determines that such statements provide some or all of the representations required, then that relevant matters once again need not be included once again in written representation. Why? Because Whatever information you want from the written representation, that is anyhow available in the public statements. You are getting all that information required from the public statements only. No need to ask for written representation once again. Clear? Next one. Doubt as to reliability of written representation. See, sometimes you ask the management to give written representation. Management has in fact given it also. Management did not object. Management gave you written representation also. But sometimes we will get a doubt regarding reliability of written representation. Sometimes we will have a doubt regarding reliability of written representation. What do you mean by reliability? Trustability. Sometimes we have trust issues with the written representation given by the management. You tell me, generally when you will get doubt regarding reliability of written representation? You went to the management, you asked them written representation, they have given it to you, but still you have a doubt regarding reliability. Okay, management gave me confirmation. How far this is reliable? You are getting this doubt. Generally, when you will get this doubt? What you will do when you get the doubt, I will tell you. But generally, when you will get this doubt? When you have doubt about integrity of the management. When you came to know that management is not honest. When you came to know that management is having bad intentions. So if you came to know the management is not having integrity and management has given written representations, generally you will have a doubt regarding reliability of audit evidence. See, when you have doubt regarding reliability of audit evidence, you should try to get the complete audit evidence to know whether written representations given to you are reliable or not reliable. Sir, how I can get to know whether written representations are correct or not? Try to compare it with other evidences. So when you get a doubt, management gave written representations, but you have a doubt that whether these written representations are reliable or not reliable. When you have that doubt, what you should do is try to obtain other evidences, try to compare written representation with other evidences, check whether written representations are genuine or not genuine. If you decided that written representations are only not correct, written representations are only not correct, management gave you wrong written representations, then what you should do, sir? Then you have to modify the opinion. What you should do in that cases, you have to modify the opinion, and the standard says in this case you have to modify the opinion. And if you do a deeper understanding of the standard, they ask you to give the disclaimer of opinion in these cases. What they ask you to do? They ask you to do disclaimer of opinion in these cases. So like if you read it here, if the auditor has concerns about competence, that is capabilities, integrity, ethical values or diligence of the management, the auditor shall determine the effect that such concerns may have on the reliability of written representation and audit evidence in general. So if you have a doubt regarding integrity of the management, if you have doubt regarding competence, that is capability of the management, if you have doubt regarding ethical values of the management, then you have to even doubt how far the written representations are reliable. In particular, if written representations are inconsistent with other audit evidences, that means management is giving some confirmation, but your audit evidences are suggesting something else. When I asked the management, sir, please give me a confirmation that you have all internal controls. They told, yes, sir, we have all internal controls. But when I actually went and did the inspection, I'm not able to find the internal controls in the warehouse. So whatever management is saying, whatever evidences I'm getting, both are not matching with each other. Then the auditor shall perform audit procedures to resolve the matter. See, when your written representations are not matching with audit evidences, try to dig deeper and find out whether representations are wrong or you have wrong audit evidences. See, if evidence is only wrong, representations of the management is only correct, well and good. But if you came to know that written representations are only wrong, then what I should do? If the auditor concludes that written representations are only not reliable, that means management intentionally gave you wrong representations, then the auditor shall take appropriate action, including determining the possible effect on the opinion, that is, including considering the modification of opinion. You should even consider modification of opinion when you decided that written representations given by the management are only wrong. If you came to know management has intentionally given you wrong written representations, you should even consider modifying the opinion. Clear? So very simple paragraph, guys. Sometimes you will get a doubt regarding reliability. When generally you will get a doubt regarding reliability? When you have doubts about competence, integrity, ethical values of the management, then you should doubt the reliability of written representation. Now you should match when you found that there is a mismatch between written representation and audit evidence, try to dig deeper and find out which one is wrong. If you have finally decided written representations given by the management is only wrong, then you should even consider modifying your opinion as per SA 705. Next one. Sir, sometimes what will happen is I will ask written representations from the management, but they are not providing only. See, previous point, I asked written representation from the management, they gave it, but I have a doubt whether they are reliable or not. Now what is happening is I requested the management to give written representations. They are not even giving the written representations only. Then what I should do? Let us see what they say. If the management does not provide one or more of the requested written representations, the auditor shall first discuss the matter with the management. Go and discuss with them. Sir, I asked you written representation. It is your responsibility to give it. Why are you not giving it? Discuss the reasons with the management. And also re-evaluate integrity of the management and evaluate the effect that this may have on reliability of representations and other evidence in general. So when you go and ask the management the reasons, sir, why are you not giving me written representation? One option which can be possible is they give valid reasons. Other option which could be possible is they are giving all the bullshit reasons. They are not giving correct reasons. See, if they did not give any valid reason why they are not giving written representations, you need to re-evaluate the integrity of the management. You might have thought management are good people, management are honest people. But when I asked them written confirmation, now I got to know about their true nature. Now I got to know about their true nature. They're not giving me any valid reasons and they're denying me the written representation. So that's why re-evaluate the integrity of the management, reassess the integrity of the management and evaluate what effect it could have on other evidences also. Now you got to know about true nature of the management, then you need to recheck whatever evidences you have got till now. Why? Because till now you thought management are honest and you got the audit evidences, you believed them. Now you got to know the true nature of the management, reassess all the, re-verify all the evidences once again, how far they are reliable, how far they are not reliable. And even consider finally modifying the opinion also. If the management is not giving you requested written representation, then you can even consider modification of opinion. You can even give a modified opinion when the management is not giving you requested written representation. Clear? So very simple guys, if the management is not giving you the written representation, first go and discuss the matter with the management, re-evaluate the integrity of the management, that is reassess the integrity of the management and check what impact it could have on other audit evidences, and finally take appropriate action including modifying the opinion. Clear? So this is what all SA 580 is about. Very simple standard, very small standard, but important from the examination perspective. So what and all we have understood in the standard guys? We understood what is the meaning of written representation, how written representation can be used as audit evidence, from whom you are going to request written representation, and also regarding which matters, what are the objectives of the auditor, regarding which matters you need to obtain written representation, what should be the date and period covered by the written representation, what should be the form of written representation, what if there is a doubt regarding reliability of written representation, what if the written representations are not provided for. Understood? So this is what regarding all this SA 580. So let us try to understand how the questions will be tested from the standard. So we have here, for example sake, some test your knowledge questions. Let us have a quick look at it. Although written representation provide necessary audit evidence, yet they do not provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence on their own about any of the matters. Do you agree with that statement? Yes. As I have told, written representation are just a supporting evidence. They do not provide evidence on their own. Discuss. They are asking you to elaborate the statement. What you will write as a justification, what you will write is, write the meaning of written representation, write the definition, and write how written representation can be used as audit evidence. So like for example, you have to write this A point along with that B point. Definition of written representation you write, how it can be used as audit evidence. This B point also you have to write it here. Next one. The auditor X of XYZ Limited, XYZ and Co., a firm of chartered accountants, is conducting audit of MN Industries Limited. The auditor requests management to provide banker certificate in support of fixed deposits, whereas management provides only written representation on the matter. How would you deal with as an auditor? See, you are verifying certain item of financial statement. For that, you asked for banker's certificate. But what the management is doing is, they are giving written representation and they are telling this only we will give. So what they are indirectly asking you is, when the management gave you only written representation, can you use only that as a audit evidence to derive the opinion? No. Why? Because as we have seen, written representation alone cannot provide you with the required audit evidence. So how you will present the answer? First, same like the previous answer, write the meaning of written representation. Also write how written representation can be used as audit evidence. Then write one concluding statement. In the given case, auditor cannot rely only on written representation for expressing an opinion. Next one. Audit evidence is all the information used by the auditor in arriving at the conclusion on which the audit opinion is based. Written representations are necessary information that the auditor requires in connection with the audit of entities' financial statements. Accordingly, similarly, responses to inquiries, written representations are also audit evidence. So much of content they have given. But what is the question? Explain stating clearly objectives of the auditor regarding written representation. See how much all the useless content they have given. Then finally, what they are coming to the ultimate question. What is the final question they are asking? What are objectives of the auditor regarding written representation? So just write the meaning of written representation, then write the objectives paragraph. So sometimes the questions will be very lengthy like this, but if you read the last line, you will be able to write the correct answer. So that's why I continuously tell you, don't get panic looking at the size of the question. When the size of the question is big, the chances could be the question is a very straightforward question. Next one. The partners of M&M Chartered Accountants asked the management to provide statements from the creditors as a part of audit evidence and also required written representation from the management. But the management did not provide the requested written representation. Discuss how the auditor should proceed. So now this question is about what auditor should do in case the management is not providing you the requested written representation. So you have to write this last paragraph. But since that paragraph is very small, to make our answer look lengthy, we will write first the definition of written representation. Then we will write the last paragraph, what auditor will do if written representations are not provided for. Next one. In some cases, management may decide to make inquiries of others who participate in preparing and presenting the financial statements and assertions therein, including individuals who have specialized knowledge relating to the matters regarding which written representations are requested. Explain in the context of SA 580. So once again, the question they are asking is, see, generally we ask written representation from the management, but sometimes management might request information from other people, then give the confirmation. Explain about this in detail. So nothing but they are asking you from whom you will request written representation. This paragraph we have read, no? So management from whom written representation requested. So this paragraph they are indirectly asking you here. And in that also, see, they have given this paragraph. They have given this paragraph as it is and they are asking you to explain. So that means they are indirectly asking you from whom management will ask written representation, from whom management will inquire and get the information and give the written representation to the auditor. So that is what their intention is. So they have given this paragraph and posed a question. We are supposed to write this entire paragraph as an answer. Next one more last question. State the circumstances in which it will be appropriate for the auditor to request written representation from the management to reconfirm its responsibilities. This paragraph also we have seen, when auditor will feel it appropriate to obtain written representation once again from the management to reconfirm their responsibilities. So this E paragraph you are supposed to write here. Since this paragraph is also very small, in order to secure full marks, to make our answer lengthy, first write the definition of written representation, then write this paragraph, then you will fetch the full marks. Clear? So this is what regarding SA 580, and I hope you guys have all understood the standard. So thanks for your watching. Take care everybody. Bye. See you in the next class.